Hey guys, it's Tanner Manson from Future Investing, and today I want to talk to you guys about Airbnb stock and whether this stock is going to treat you well, maybe a multi-bagger, maybe we can make a little bit of money on this stock, and whether we should, maybe choose this stock as a recovery stock, going forward instead of maybe the Carnival Cruises or the airlines, ones that I've made, traditional investments like that previously. How does this one sort of pale in comparison? Now, before we jump into it, although I am actually a licensed financial security advisor as my full-time job, none of these stocks or topics that we talk about today are in any way my recommendation. This is merely my opinion, and you can choose to do what you wish with this information. Now, if you could, hit the like button down below and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. Now let's jump right into it. Airbnb is to be looked at like any other recovery stock on the stock market. Is travel going to be coming back? Is there a huge desire to travel? Are people going to be using their service? These are all the same things that we look at whenever we look at Carnival Cruise or Royal Caribbean or something like any of the airlines that are going to be boosted because people are going to be sick of the pandemic and want to go back to their regular lives and travel and get out there again. The only difference with Airbnb is it might be closer to something like Expedia, for example, where it's a website, a tech company where they're able to profit off, the exchanges of these things, of communicating between, a host and a guest and being able to get them together and do that same sort of thing, just like Expedia, except that's more like, hooking up their travel arrangements and these sorts of things. Whereas Airbnb is actually hosting individual houses, but obviously you guys know that. But these tech companies like Expedia and Airbnb are, the stocks that I'd rather hold rather than the Carnival Cruises and the Royal Caribbeans of the world, because it's obvious they have high gross margins and, super low expenses because they don't have as many employees. You don't need people like purchasing chefs and all these different people that, might actually have a low impact on the profitability of the company, but yet it's needed because that's what's included in the service, right? So you can't really take that away. Just to put it into comparison, Carnival Cruise has 120,000 employees, where Airbnb only has 5,400. And yet that's down from 7,500, about a 25% dip, because they laid off a bunch of people due to the pandemic. And that's what I love about their CEO, Brian, is that he's able to make these hard choices. This is the same sort of CEO mentality that I find with Shopify, a really young CEO that's willing to do the hard things and take these steps of these hard steps to take of letting go of their, employees. And in the limelight at the time, they might not look like good CEOs, but they're saving the company money. And whenever you're a shareholder, you have to look at the company like cutthroat in a way. We want them to keep low expenses, high profit margins, and that's it. And Airbnb does that. For example, an average gross margin, okay? How much out of their dollars do they keep after all expenses, paying employees, paying everything? Out of all the, money that they bring in, how much do they get to keep? That's what a gross margin is. Well, they get to keep 74% of all the money that gets brought into them. 74% gross margins. You don't see anything like that in Carnival Cruise or American Airlines or Wynn Resorts or any of these sorts of, other recovery stocks that people are looking at. You really cannot compete in terms of profitability against like these tech companies and these SaaS businesses that just, they're not actually selling anything physical. They're just selling the communication between two host and guest. And so that costs them nothing to run. Really, the only real expenses is trying to get their name out there and, bring up a higher and higher customer base, as well as paying for like customer service and these sorts of things. Very, very small margins on those though. And this part's going to blow you away. But in terms, if we're going to keep comparing it to Carnival Cruise or American Airlines, companies that have been around forever, Airbnb was started in 2007, 2008, that time. And yet the market cap of this company is $90 billion, almost valued at about 3 Carnival Cruises all put together. Just absolutely insane. But that's the profitability that people are looking for. And they're willing to pay a higher premium for this company. But in terms of actual profitability, how much money that they take home, after all their expenses, it's actually currently nothing. They spend so much money on, advertising and R&D and coming up with all these things and expanding their company through acquisitions and all these different things, that their current PE ratios are actually 0, and their forward PE ratios are also 0. They don't plan on making any money next year as well, especially because the pandemic might still be around then. And, the full capacity of what this company could be is definitely not going to be seen within the next, coming quarters that are going to happen for the rest of 2021. But that being said, unlike all these other recovery stocks that people are looking at with high amounts of debts and low cash just to try to survive through this pandemic, Well, you know what? Airbnb is actually sort of on the other side of that, having about $6.5 billion in cash with only about $2.5 billion in debt, about, positive amounts of $4 billion in their assets. And I just love that. I want a company with a strong balance sheet. And I'm not the only one who sees this. I mean, institutions are buying up this company like crazy, with about 45% of the stock held by institutions, where usually you don't see that, a company 7 months out from their IPO. Usually you see a way higher amount in like insiders holding this company, and institutions will wait to see how this company fares in the public markets. I don't think that's the case here. I mean, there really is no competition to, Airbnb. They are a complete unicorn and they own the space entirely. And it just shows you how much people don't know really what this company is worth, because you know what? The, shares outstanding that are being shorted right now is only about 2%. Only about 2% of the stock right now is being bet against. That's a crazy low amount for, being such a high valuation of $90 billion market cap and yet being so close to IPOing and, no profit margins at all. People have really, really huge respect for what Brian Chesky has done with this company, and they're not going to bet against him, because I think, that is the new wave of entrepreneurs, is these, these Mark Zuckerberg-esque type people, these young CEOs that are taking these tech companies to these triple digit in billions, or I guess 9-digit companies that, are looking for that, $1 trillion valuation, and they're not stopping. They're still hungry, even though they're multi-billionaires. But in terms of us as potential buyers for this stock, because I personally, just as a disclaimer, I don't own this company. I'm just sort of researching on it and, trying to learn if I should maybe purchase this company. Well, you know what? If I were to have bought it back in IPO day, December 10th of 2020, for example, 7 months ago, that this company was the same price as it is today, $90 billion. I think that's just crazy. I mean, you look at the company, they have 400 million of net assets added to their business, as well as all these new hosts and guests that have downloaded their apps and, gotten used to their platform. They're much of a stronger business these 7 months later, even though you can get them for the exact same price that you could at IPO day. So you have to ask yourself a couple, very key questions if you're going to own this company. So first of all, if you're a short-term holder of this company, is there going to be a travel boom, starting now or potentially within the next couple months as vaccines get, larger and larger numbers, and which is happening? And is that travel boom going to continue from, now going forward into the next 24 months? If you can answer that question positively going forward, then you know what, Airbnb or these sort of recovery stock type ideas may be a good idea if you think that their valuations are appropriate. Now, holding on to a unicorn like Airbnb long term is a whole different beast. You have to ask yourself things like, do people feel safe on Airbnb? And the true answer is that Airbnb is no safer than a hotel is. They can both have sketchy sort of things happen, but for the majority of the time, 99.9% of the time, people do feel safe on their Airbnbs, and they try to wean out their guests and make super hosts that have multiple properties and have, 5-star reviews across the board. And it allows you to choose those places to, feel a little extra safe, because these people have been doing it. They have a track record, background checks, all these sorts of things. And their identities have been, double verified and background checked and everything like this to make you feel as safe as possible. That's great news. And the second question that you'd have to ask yourself is, are people comfortable transacting on this app and also using their platform to go stay at other places? And I mean, this one's really easy to answer. Over $110 billion has been transacted on Airbnb for gross booking value throughout their time that they've been in business. I mean, $90 billion market cap. If they don't have the strongest tech, the strongest sort of security to keep all your information, completely private and all your payment information completely locked away, I don't know what they're doing over there, but you can, rest assured that your information is safe there. Plus, I mean, you just have to look at the statistics also of if people feel comfortable using Airbnb. People aren't even just traveling and using Airbnb, they're also living in Airbnbs. Nearly a quarter, about 24% of all the bookings that happened in Q1 of 2021 were for more than a month long. That was up from 14% of 2019. So 14% to 24%, that's a massive change whenever you're talking about, instead of just booking one night here or 2 nights here or whatever like this, that you're booking a full month. That's what you want. That's where all the money is. In addition to that statistic, about 50% of all stays in Q1 of 2021 were for longer than 7 nights. This is absolutely massive. Okay, I had no idea that this was actually happening before I started researching this stock. I thought for the most part, I mean, I've used Airbnb in the past, but I've only stayed 1 or 2 nights at max. I had no idea that 24%, a quarter of their business is from people staying a month long. That's insane to me. I'm sure there are like actual clients within that are staying 6 months, 8 months, all these sorts of things that are just bringing in tons of money. And this is not going to change at all. I honestly think that the pandemic is going to make Airbnb so much stronger than it did before because of this work from home sort of idea where people can go around traveling and have that nomad sort of lifestyle that they've always wanted, where they can go around and travel to all these different places, but then whenever they get home at night or whatever, wherever they are, as long as they have Wi-Fi, they can get on their laptops, do all the work that they need and make their money. It's a completely new way to advertise Airbnb. Like this. And I mean, I work from home a lot of the times too. So, I mean, who knows if me and my girlfriend want to pack up and go to Greece for a month? I mean, that's the opportunity that we have now because of the pandemic. Before I was not allowed to, work from home, but now we have DocuSign. We have all these different things that we use that I can get forms signed from anywhere in the world. I could go to Italy for a week or 2 weeks and travel all throughout Europe while still, getting done what I need to do for my clients, still have Zoom meetings, everything like that. As long as I have my lighting equipment, my cameras, everything like that, there would be no difference to the actual performance of my work. And that goes across all industries now that are able to have this work from home experience. If anything, Airbnb is looking better now than ever before the pandemic because it was only, used for travel. Now that we're starting to see these massive increases in people using it for hey, we can go work. And the large majority, about 74% of the people that sign up with Airbnb are under the age of 44. Okay. Once retirees and older ages and all these people start to get a hold of this company, start to use Airbnb that way, their revenue can shoot up into that $1 trillion mark. And I'm not just going to say they're going to 10x overnight. This is not some multi-bagger, undervalued company. I think they are well valued, if not maybe over. But that's just the way, these things sort of grow out, is that, you need the millennials of the world to find the apps to then tell their friends, tell their parents, tell everyone, and let it slowly grow over time. And then as people are growing into this business, 17, 16, 15-year-olds in 3 or so years, they are now going to be pushed into that new demographic that are obviously going to be using Airbnb going forward. And I mean, there are small competitors like the Marriott and Expedia and all these things that are trying to step into Airbnb's way, but none of them even make a dent compared to what Airbnb does. And I have to say that I truly believe that they have no competitors like at all, and they're the only ones doing this. So if you do want a cozy place to stay or something like this, Airbnb is the only app to do so. And if you can make other people money, like these hosts, that they alone are going to try to boost your business up and make you try to help you make money because they want a portion of their money. Same thing with, YouTube. YouTube's benefiting off me because I'm trying to be out here making views for them. And, I'm trying to benefit off of their service. It's a perfect platform. Now we have the real estate version of YouTube in a way where people are allowed to use this service and they want to because they are being monetarily incentivized to do so. It's just an amazing app. I love everything about it, although I do not own it, to be said. So, I mean, I have a lot of my funds tied up with other stocks that I've spoken on in this channel. But that being said, I do have a quote from the CEO, Brian Chesky, and here it is. Because we have millions of hosts who offer nearly all types of homes and experiences around the world, we were able to adapt to the new use cases guests wanted. Our business rebounded faster than anyone expected, and it showed that as the world changes, our model is able to adapt. And this just shows why I love this company so much, Although people are valuing it right now as this, hotel sort of real estate business for hosts, that they can use their name brand and expand it into so many different areas that, using their sort of software as a service as getting them into, possible other services and doing other things with travel and all these sorts of things and expanding into multiple different areas, almost like, what Tesla did. Although they're a car company, they can get into energy and grids and energy storage and all this sorts of stuff that, gets them into all these different revenue sources. Okay, Airbnb has one revenue source. That's bookings, per nights and experiences long term. And I don't know, I want to have these companies that have massive moats around them. I haven't quite seen the ecosystem. There isn't multiple products for Airbnb yet. I hope to see that shortly, but they still are very, very new. For example, people don't realize how long it takes for an Apple to be where it is. That's a 45-year company. Okay. Airbnb is like 12 to 13 years old. Give them some time to grow. I mean, they got to $90 billion in a matter of like a little over a decade. That is insane. You can see that they have a massive moat around their business though, like I was saying, because no big company is trying to compete. Facebook's not trying to compete. Google, Microsoft, Apple, none of these huge companies, usually whenever there is a large unicorn, for example, they try to step in that way and make their own sort of thing. For example, with cloud storage, every single company in the world has some sort of cloud storage competitor to fight off Google and Microsoft and all these different companies. With Airbnb, no one is doing what they're doing. They're the only ones. And sure, you could talk about small travel companies that are doing it, but whenever you actually look at their market share, it's nothing. Anyways, I could just keep going about the ideas of this company. I mean, I do think that if you are interested in growth companies like this, that it might be a stock for you, especially if you're interested in the recovery stocks. Like if you think that, the actual amount of travel is going to be so large that people are not actually anticipating how large it's going to be, that Airbnb could be a huge beneficiary to, these sorts of movements after the pandemic, once people are vaccinated, that they're going to want to, go, and maybe all the hotels are booked up because, you can't make new hotels that quickly, but you can make new Airbnbs really, really quickly. It's just a matter of signing up. So there's always going to be supply. So it all just depends on if, travel can meet that demand. Anyways, guys, that's all for me today. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a comment down below letting me know what you want to see next. And if you could, hit a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe down below. Anyway, that's all. Thank you so much. Stay safe trading. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye for now.